What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Ham Radio Crash Course. Welcome to Friday. How was everybody's week? Hopefully you're hearing me loud and clear. Oh boy. Patoskala? Is that how you pronounce that? Patoskala? Hello from Patoskala. KA8GPM. Awesome. Very cool. Patoskala. That's a new one for me. All right. Good. Everybody's hearing me loud and clear. Excellent. All right. Playing my little intro song here. I got a new Stream Deck, so I'm playing around with technology. But boom, here we go. How's it going, everybody? I am Josh, KI6NAZ. Welcome to the amateur or the Ham Radio Crash Course. Every week we stream Friday, 7 p.m. The idea is to get a little bit smarter, grow with ham radio, move forward with ham radio, as we say. Today we have a very special show. We have somebody on here that is going to talk to us about not just communications, but maybe a little bit of medical, some preparedness things. He is a YouTuber. He is known as USNERDOC, or perhaps you know him. He'll be on shortly, but let's go through some of our news items. As always, we will have a Discord after chat, and we are running a Discord giveaway. So if you take the link, Zach's in the house, he'll probably be posting the link here shortly. Take the link, go to the giveaways chat room, and click the little party horn, and you'll see it go from, it's saying 64 right now, it'll say 65 for the next person that clicks it. And what we're giving away is a Signal Stuff signal stick with free shipping to you, so that's a really nice, handy talkie antenna. Thank you so much, Signal Stick, for doing that giveaway with us. Got a news item that I think is really cool. The link is in the description for this as well. The ARRL has created a new MCOMS class that they've connected with the FEMA classes that a lot of people take for CERT, ARES, and RACES. So I think that's awesome. It's really fortuitous that we have David on, that we're going to talk a little bit about that, as well as, you can go check out the training on your own time. So that's super cool. Really good timing. I do have something I want to show here too. So James Hannibal, owner of Quirky QRP Radio, he sent us those Quirky QRP keychains that we gave away the last couple of weeks, and he's making the Slink antenna that we talked about. He posted on Twitter that he just made a 160-meter QSO with his 10-foot long Slink antenna. So that's super, super cool. In his garage on FT8. And that was with his 718 doing 50 watts. So that's pretty awesome. So I also have the link for that in the description if you want to go check that out. I believe it's like $50 for the Slink antenna, which is really, really good. And lastly, two things. W5KUB.com. We did the show last week, or on Tuesday. That was cool. I try to go there every Tuesday and hang out with them as schedule fits and works, but working can be tough, and the traffic in California can be gnarly. And let's see, lastly. So I've got a note here. Something came in the mail. Chuck, KK6USY, sent me this, which is a antenna mount for the MFJ Walkabout. Toys are for boys. Let there be no evil in your first aid prepper kit. Thank you, buddy. He basically built this out of hot water heater strapping that he painted and put some silicone legs on with a little mount, and sets it up so that it's like really rigidly holds the antenna on the radio. So that's so cool. So just wanted to say thanks again to Chuck. He did say it was hard watching you fiddle with that clamp to hold up your MFJ antenna. I wish I had made it for the live part. I'm sending you this bipod, looks like the Elecraft one. So yeah, very cool little engineering there for amateur radio. Very excited to have that. So thank you very much. Okay, before we bring in David, I'm going to have a beer. What are we drinking today? This is a cool one. Prince George, the bourbon barrel-aged Imperial Porter made with Madagascar vanilla beans. I don't know what this is going to taste like, but I'm having fun tonight, so maybe not. Wax is the worst thing for a beer. I don't know why people do this, but there we go. Man, that was a pain. And the kids are already screaming in the background. Sorry about that, everybody. All right. Very good. Now we are ready. All right. So Who is USNERDOC? Well, he's somebody I've been actually following for almost as long as I've been on YouTube. I'm going to have to ask him how long he's been on YouTube. But he has been somebody that has followed almost fortuitously through lots of interests that I've had myself: amateur radio, geocaching, getting outdoors, first aid, preparedness, so many things. And obviously, with his experience set, it's going to be a lot of fun to talk to him. So let's bring him in. Oh boy, there we go. David, how you doing?
Good.
Good, excellent. We hear you loud and
Thank you
clear.
for having me.
So give me a little bit of your background. You know, obviously USN Doc's pretty informative, but why don't you give us a little bit of background and kind of what you do on YouTube?
Sure. And I forgot who it was in the stream there, but they said there is a nerd in USNERDOC. And of course there is. But first of all, USNERDOC was my password for one of my computer stations in the Navy. And that just happened to be what I used when I first started with YouTube almost 11 years ago,
Okay.
posting videos, woodworking videos for my woodworking blog. And I knew nothing about YouTube or what it was going to come to be. And if I could go back, I would change that. Nobody knows what USNERDOC stands for, but it's United States Navy Emergency Room Doc.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So now you've been doing a lot of stuff you've got a trailer system, right? And a car. You're doing some outdoors videos. You're still active with amateur radio and obviously the medical, right?
Correct.
Okay. So I'm just going to dive in with some questions. Feel free to go crazy with them and we can have a little banter back and forth. By the way, I want to mention, David sent me a really nice PDF file that I have linked in the description that goes to my Google Drive. He's going to cover... Oh, he's holding it up there. Super tons of information. So go check that out and download it. David, you have what's the store? AMP3? What's the full URL?
It's amp-3.net.
Okay. So I don't know if some of the links go there, but make sure you guys check that out as well. So what is your personal preparedness philosophy? Watching you for so long, it always seems like you're kind of prepared. You like to have kits for things set up. So kind of where are you now as far as preparedness, and kind of how did you get started, and what's your philosophy?
Sure. Well, I'll be honest, first of all, and just say I am not at the level of preparedness that I ever would want. And I think that's always going to be the case, right? Because you're always going to be trying to get that much more prepared. My preparedness philosophy goes back to two sentinel events in my life and my wife's life. So I come to this, as an Eagle Scout, and then I was on the fire department in California. We started off with a 100-year flood, so 24 inches of rain in 24 hours. Beth and I were cut off from family and friends for 9 days. We were living off grid before I even knew what off grid meant. We were living in a little cabin up in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And when the rain came, there was a big mountain slide with redwood trees, and we were just blocked and couldn't get out for 9 days. Beth and I always felt that we needed to be prepared to take care of ourselves, be self-reliant. So we had food, water, firewood. Our cabin sat on top of a cement cistern, so we had plenty of water. When we finally got out of that situation, Beth's mother, who actually was pretty focal in my life for many, many things, but she said, the fire department is looking for volunteers. You should go take a look at that. So I joined the fire department, got more training, and but about maybe 6 years later, in 1989, I was on the fire department, and we had the Loma Prieta, or some people call it the San Francisco earthquake. And that's when I really realized that if something bad happens, the likelihood of the fire department, the police department, ambulance coming to your rescue in that type of situation, they're going to do their best, but you could be way down on a triage list and they're going to respond when they can.
Yeah, I took a
Oh,
CERT class. Sorry, I took a CERT
yeah.
class, and it was taught by a firefighter. And he said basically assume if you're in a localized disaster that it's going to take out a lot of the first responders, and just plan for 9 to 11 days just in general for a localized disaster.
That is spot on. I agree with that 100%. I remember I didn't live too far from the fire department. I got down there right after the earthquake, helped get equipment out of the barn, so to speak. And not within maybe 45 minutes of getting down there, a lady drove up with her husband clutching his chest in the back of a Subaru.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I remember I was the captain on one of our engines, and I thought, okay, we'll get on the radio and get this guy to the hospital. You could not get on the radio to save your life. There was so much traffic. And I remember we loaded him up on the hose bed, drove him to the hospital, dropped him off, and then kept running calls. Now that I'm a doctor, I look back on that and realize he probably was having a cardiac event. I
Mm-hmm.
never know what happened to him, but it made me realize, one, communications aren't going to be what you think they are during the time we are right now. They're going to be very busy,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to be prepared to take care of yourself.
If communications are functioning at all, right? I mean, traditional communications generally falter. Cell phones get so busy to the point that they don't even work, right?
Correct. Well, and that's you get that all the time, I'm sure, on YouTube, and I get people responding on my ham radio videos. Dude, that's an old man's hobby. We have cell phones,
Right.
and
What do you think about that? What do you normally tell them when they say that to you?
well, so I've learned not to be offended,
Yeah.
and
Well,
and
you've
I
been on
think
YouTube for
just
11 years, so I assume that's a true
right.
statement.
I've got pretty thick skin, but I use it as an opportunity to maybe enlighten someone on why ham radio is a good option and why they should get involved in it.
Hmm.
So I think when I get comments like that, it's a good thing.
Okay. Very good. So, regarding communications, with your preparedness, how does communications fit into your preparedness? Your go bags, your kits. What do you generally carry with you, and how would you foresee using it, or how have you used it in emergencies before?
Right. So I've not actually. Can I say that? Yeah, I've not actually used ham radio in an emergency. I
Hmm.
practice with it.
Sure.
Um, uh, Beth and I travel all over the country with AMP3, and we're very engaged in education and teaching.
Hmm.
And I actually do a class at a lot of the shows that we go to, an introduction to amateur radio. And I always start off that talk, or somewhere in the beginning, my little mantra, if you will, is if you don't have communications, you're operating blind. You
Sure.
don't know what's going on around you. So I always tell people you need to have communications for local,
Hmm.
you need to have communications for regional, and you need to have communications for national level, if you will. Now,
Hmm.
you may not be talking, but you need to be able to hear and receive information. And if you
Okay.
don't have that, you don't know what's going on around you, so you're actually handicapped.
Sure. Uh, as far as radios go, I know you linked it in the PDF, but I'll
Yeah.
just mention it right now since we're talking about it. What radios do you generally carry with you? And you mentioned just receiving. Do you have a receiver of choice type radio if you want to mention it?
Yeah. So I think radios are a lot like cars or computers, and people get tied up with brands that they are very loyal to,
Yeah.
and I understand that. I look at radios as a tool for a skill set that I engage for preparedness. So I'm speaking outside of just sort of pure amateur radio, if you
Hmm.
will.
Yep.
And I think you need to have more than a radio, but I can talk about that in a minute. So I always have. I'm a Yaesu person. That just happened to be what I started with when I got into amateur radio, and so that's the gear that I have. That's ham radio level gear. So VX8R.
Hmm.
My wife has a VX6. I have a FT817, and I used to have a 857 in my truck, And now I've turned that into a base station down on our ranch in Southern Oregon.
Okay. As far as receivers go, do you take any receivers, like some of those emergency radios or anything like that, along with you?
So when you say emergency receivers, like what are you talking
Like
about?
a hand crank AM FM shortwave type thing. I know I'm
Oh,
throwing you on the spot a little bit, but
yeah, no, that's good. That actually is one of my favorite questions because I think these tools can be potentially life saving. And I'm not a big fan of a hand crank system, or a lot of them have the little teeny solar panel that measures maybe an inch or 2 inches by
yep.
6 inches on the top. And somehow you're going to, unless you understand solar, you're going to be sitting out there for maybe 2 days to charge that system. So I'm not a big fan of having a flashlight, a siren, a hand crank, or a solar panel on my radio gear.
Right.
Um, but I do, I do have I carry with me all the time a shortwave single sideband capable radio that I got from countycom.com.
Oh, I know which one
Um,
you're talking about.
yeah, the GP5.
Yeah, the
It's the,
Texan, right?
it's the
Basically.
smallest single sideband capable shortwave radio.
So
Um, I,
I am going to review the video's coming out, but I'll just mention it since I've got it on hand. The Sea Crane company recently came out with the
oh,
Skywave in single
yeah,
sideband, and this thing's very small. I've been
they
having a
make
lot of
great
fun with
radios.
this.
They make great radios.
Little expensive though. This is a little
Yeah,
expensive, I'd say. Okay.
and that has single sideband capability.
Yes, it actually has air, weather, AM, FM, shortwave, and single sideband.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give a shout out to to someone here real quick. This
Uh oh.
lady right there.
Yeah. Go ahead, hold
She
that up.
wanted.
It wasn't on frame. Go ahead, put it up a little bit longer. Uh, okay, KF8JBB. All right.
She wanted to say hi to all of you guys, but she had that radio on her Instagram feed, so I remember seeing that. But I think you need to have a shortwave radio with single sideband capability if you want to be prepared. I think you also need to have a scanner that's going to let you know what's going on locally around you. It's nice to know what's happening from a law enforcement point of view.
This is a great question, or a great point you're bringing up, and I want to go off on a tangent here with you a little bit on that one. With the influx of departments going encrypted, what do you do as far as scan? You kind of just can't do anything, right? What are you doing? Do you have that problem?
Yeah, so that is going to be a problem. You're going to need to have a scanner that has trunking capability, and I think the
Sure.
last one I got has triple trunking capability. But the digital encryption, as far as I know, there's not a scanner that you can get
I think
to
it's
listen to that.
I think it's illegal if you had a
Yeah.
scanner that could
Well,
do that.
I don't even know. I don't even know that, but I would
Yeah,
imagine that's true.
sure. So yeah, digital trunking I think is the lowest level that you have to have now to be able to receive most of law enforcement, and most of the time I think they're encrypted. I was just talking to Shane actually at the ham radio outlet today about that in Anaheim, and he was telling me the same thing. He's like, guess what? All the departments around here have all gone encrypted. There's not much we can do anymore, which is a
Yeah,
bummer. Yeah.
yeah. The only good thing is in the smaller counties and communities, that system is so expensive. There's going to be a lag before everybody's on board with that. So if you're living in a smaller community, you're more likely going to be able to listen on a trunked scanner. But I think a scanner is important. The shortwave radio with single sideband is
Hmm.
important. And then we can talk about other two-way radios besides ham radio. But I look at those as gateway drugs to really the ultimate radio, and that is to have ham radio.
I agree with you. Although I echo your sentiment about the single sideband, handheld receiver, because these work off of A cells, and charging up A cells is relatively cheap with a light panel. You can use this as a receiver on net frequencies or local frequencies, and then you can just supplement that with your other comms so that you're not wasting the batteries on your transmitting radio, etc. I've always felt that having a couple layers of radios is always good. Um, yeah.
Yeah, redundancy is a key thing. And a quick question on that radio: does it have? It must, I would assume, a port that you can plug in external power.
Yes, it does, and it's actually a
Okay.
mini USB jack, so that's
Yeah.
really good.
So that's what I do with my county com radio. Yeah, that exactly. So I have with me battery, small solar panel, and charge controller, and then the ability to, with Anderson Power Pole, plug into most of my gear. And then the only thing that's not Anderson Power Pole is going to be USB micro or mini. And I've got adapters with a USB adapter that I got from Hardened Power Systems.
Hmm. I did get a comment in the chat that I'll throw in just because it's on a similar topic. What they're doing, they say, they have a laptop with two RTL SDR dongles and Unitrunker, which is a software title, with a 1,000 watt solar panel. So the only comment I'll have with that is laptops actually hog up a lot of power. Running a laptop in an emergency situation, unless it's for a short time or you've got pretty decent batteries, is not exactly sustainable for long term. These will run, hours, if not days, on two AA batteries, but laptops are hard to get them to run in low power mode to be able to,
Yeah.
extend SDR life. SDRs are great though. Do you have any SDRs?
I don't, but I want to learn about that.
It's nice to take a little, thumb drive type thing or a thing the size of a pack of cards and pretty much be able to receive anything you want, even outside traditional bans and legal access type stuff, which is
Yeah.
a lot of
Oh,
fun.
actually, I do have an SDR radio. It's what is it called? I have to pull that out. I got it a long time ago. Um, uh, it sounds like County Com, but it's not. It's made in Colorado. It's a little flat aluminum enclosure. Oh, I'm
Oh,
blanking
I'm
on the
not
name.
sure. It's not Nuelec. It's not SDR Play or anything, right?
No. Oh, I'm blanking on it.
Somebody might get it in the chat.
I'll send
we,
you a text.
we have a pretty active chat going on. All right, so we're talking about radio a little bit. We can come back to radios in a little bit. In fact, I'm going to ask you more specific questions there. But obviously, your background in medical, gotta ask, what level of medical proficiency do you think ham should set as a goal, like right
Right.
now?
So first of all, I want to thank you for sending me, some questions to kind of flesh out this conversation. And I thought that was a very insightful question because I think some level of medical preparedness goes hand in hand with amateur radio.
I think so.
There's not been a single amateur radio operator I've met who's not a gear guy or lady. They're very into being prepared and self-sufficient. And in that wheelhouse, I think, is a box, however big you want to make it, that is medical preparedness. So a couple of things that I wrote down that I recommend when people ask me that same question. One, at the very least, CPR training from the American Red Cross, and they also have a good basic first aid class. So that would be a good start. If you want to go to the next level, things that I would consider would be the wilderness first responder course. And then if you really want to say, I want to take that a little farther, you could do EMT training. And the other thing that I would recommend at a bare minimum, American Red Cross CPR, and you can take a class called Stop the Bleed.
Okay.
And I put on this document a link for that. And there's a national mandate right now for the layperson to learn how to use tourniquets because they can save somebody's life.
So I was a Boy Scout. I grew up learning first aid. I then took CERT training later. I think, and you could probably add some more details to this, that, once upon a time, the Boy Scouts were really careful. They didn't want people to really know how to apply a tourniquet. Has the whole kind of thing changed as far as tourniquets are concerned, as far as
Right. So
being more liberal with their application?
It's gone 180 degrees. And I think there's a lot of sort of legal considerations there where,
Sure.
Boy Scouts, and I don't know, but they might have held back on that a little bit for legal reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But you can actually save somebody's life, and there's a lot. If you ever want, I can send you links. But there's a lot of situations that have been documented recently where lay people with knowledge of appropriate application of tourniquets have saved people's lives. And you're going to see this in active shooter situations, but you're also going to see it just in outdoor activities. I've had patients come in by ambulance with chainsaw injuries
Ooh.
where, and of course the paramedics put on a tourniquet, but you could actually save somebody's life if you understood the application of a tourniquet, when to use it and when not to use it.
Yeah, I have a couple of bleeder kits that I've got, or large bleeding kits that are in my different bags, and it's usually a rat's tourniquet, a SWAT tourniquet, and then an Israeli bandage, a large
Oh,
one.
that's my favorite. I think from that kit point of view, I always teach what's called the critical triad.
Hmm.
You need a tourniquet, and again, it's like a radio or a computer. Pick your poison, but learn how to use it.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of the layperson using the SWAT T tourniquet, and then Israeli trauma dressing, but a tourniquet, a trauma dressing, and a hemostatic agent of your choice. Pick whatever brand you like, carry them with you, learn how to use them.
Oh, so you're a fan of a hemostatic agent. So you work in a hospital, you work in an emergency room. I've heard, maybe it's just, the internet people talking, that emergency rooms don't like it if you use like a quick clot or something like
No,
that.
no, there's so much myth
Oh, I
on,
agree.
and there's a lot of internet lore and myth. I've even had not patients, but people come up to me in some of the trade shows we go to, and they like to tell me their stories. I've had people tell me how somebody got a third-degree burn
I
from
was just gonna go there.
application of
Yep.
hemostatic agent, and when they say that, I know that I can't teach them. They're
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 FUDs.
fooled by the myths.
Have you ever heard of the term FUD?
Yes.
FUDD or FUD, fear,
Yeah.
uncertainty, and doubt. Like there's the misinformation just seems to breed in that area, and people, if they don't have a practical experience, not to say that I do, I've never applied QuickClot to anybody, but it would seem like, what would you rather have, a third-degree burn and live, or
Right.
bleed out and not have a third-degree burn?
But bottom line is, it doesn't cause a third-degree burn, and
Sure, of course.
it's myth. But it's always funny when someone wants to share that story.
Well, then let me ask you a follow-on question specifically in that area. Do they actually, if you use QuickClot or something like that, how easy is it to get it out once you've got it closed up, or the wound? You're almost reopening the wound, right? When they get to the emergency room.
Yeah. So I've not ever had to remove it in the emergency room,
Okay.
but it's a matter of just reaching in and just pulling it out. QuickClot now is really comes in Z-fold or roller gauze,
Oh.
and QuickClot is nothing more than an agent that's applied to the gauze that triggers your own clotting mechanism.
Okay.
They're really refined clays like kaolin clay and that type of thing, and they trigger your own clotting mechanism. And all you do is just reach in and pull the gauze and the clot out. If that were happening to me, I'm not going to be doing that in the ER. If someone has an injury that requires a tourniquet and hemostatic agent, we're already going to be talking to the trauma center, and that's an OR situation.
Sure.
So I'm not going to take down all of that and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
If we've got bleeding control, you're going to go to the operating room.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So we covered. I want to go back to the original question as far as level of ham proficiency. So you said, CPR, basic first aid. As far as basic first aid, do you have a recommendation on where you could go get that information?
I think it's going to be whatever is available locally, but one thing that's available across the country and a good starting place is American Red Cross, and take a first aid class. And if you like that, you can branch off from there. The next step that I would do would be a wilderness first responder class, and there's a number of organizations that present that, and that is a standardized national curriculum.
Okay. As far as kit, so do I cover that later? As far as what you'd recommend, and I think we can probably you'll talk about AMP3 here in a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
But if you had you said the triad, right? what else would you kind of flesh that out? Again, assuming amateur radio operator, maybe SOTA. Have you ever done SOTA, Summits on the Air?
I have been on the receiving end, not on the activation end.
So someone going outside, like myself, possibly activating a summit, what would you possibly recommend to carry in that kind of situation?
Sure. I think the standard nomenclature is something called an individual first aid kit, or an IFAC. That it's a nice segue to AMP3, actually. So AMP3 exists solely because of a video that I posted on YouTube. And I've been building an IFAC for personal use and sharing with friends for years. I made a video on how to make the IFAC. I even made a little document like this.
Yep.
That you could download. It had clickable links, and you could buy all the stuff yourself and build the kit yourself. And I was flooded with emails with people just wanting to, where can I buy that kit? And I thought, I just told you how to build it, and I made a video showing how to build it. Just make your own.
Yeah.
So my wife said, we should make those and see what happens. I made 5 thinking that that would be probably a year's worth. No one's going to buy these. And we sold them in less than 12 hours.
Oh, wow.
Definitely something popular. But honestly, you're going to run into more boo-boo and minor injury things than you are critical bleeding. So I think having that bleeding kit kind of in reserve, tucked away and close at hand is good. But a good standard first aid kit with, Band-Aids, antibiotic ointment, gauze pads, tape, all of that stuff. And I've given lists, and you can download my lists and build your own. We also build them and sell them.
Excellent. So I've got somebody in the chat. Jeremiah Gramberg said, it's a good kit. I based mine off of his design. So cool. We've already got people out there that are definitely fans. So that's awesome. I love that. All right. So.
And I apologize. I'm not keeping up with the chat.
It's okay. I'm trying to, but we're talking, and this is a good conversation. So I'm trying not to break away from it. So
and I'm pretty polyphasic.
What's that?
I said I'm pretty multitasker, but I'm having a hard time watching that and you.
No, I understand. So I think you mentioned in the beginning you haven't actively supported an emergency from like a communication standpoint, but you did say that you train for it. What do you do for training, or what do you recommend after kind of doing this for a while? Is there something you'd recommend all people kind of have a basis of experience or trying it, right? First level.
Yeah. I think the best thing, and see if you agree with this, but would be CERT training.
Yes.
My ER schedule did not allow, I would do it, but my ER schedule did not allow me to have, it's so sporadic. I could not have certain days off in a row for a month or 6 weeks. But I participated in the Portland area with what's called the Beaverton CERT team. And so I was a very active participant in the radio team. And I just made it a religious habit to participate in the nets. I even, if I could scoot outside real quick when I was at the ER, I'd run out to the helipad with my handheld, and I would check in and tell them that I have to check out early because I'm at work. And there's a number of times that I checked in to the net on Echolink. Sure. While I was sitting at my desk at work in between doing charts for patients, and quickly check in on Echolink on the net and then get out, which was fun because then some of my staff members asked, what are you doing? And then it was my opportunity to tell them about amateur radio.
I love that. Okay, so CERT, local comms, any interest in Aries or Races? Have you been able to work with them in any capacity? I know sometimes they kind of roll together.
Right, and I think of them kind of rolling together a little bit, although I know they have their own little turfs a little bit. I have not been involved in either of those, but the person that got me into amateur radio, one of the techs in our emergency department, is actively involved in them. And so I talk with her quite a bit about that, but I just have not gotten involved, mainly because I don't have time.
Sure. And I understand. I appreciate you taking out time to be able to do this, by the way.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
We had a couple of back and forths trying to figure out the right time to make this work, and it seemed like Friday worked, so that's terrific.
Right.
All right. So, in the list, I got to look through the list you sent out earlier, and you listed the radios that you have that you deploy, right, or
Right.
that you have used.
So yeah, those are radios that I have that are in active service right now,
Hmm.
either with me here in Portland, or I spend a fair amount of my time when I'm not working on our property in Southern Oregon. So we use a lot of GMRS down there
Hmm.
for the sole reason that Beth's brother visits frequently. I've got him interested in amateur radio, but he's not taken his um, test yet, but
Uh-huh.
he's allowed to use GMRS on my GMRS license.
Okay.
And so we use that all the time. It's a 70-acre piece of property, so GMRS is and communications quite helpful.
So are those generally the radios that you like? I know going on the AMP3 website, you see a Baofeng in there occasionally because you've got the go bags and you've got different radio equipment. In addition to the medical, you've got a kind of a robust amateur radio section. So
Right.
we can dive right into that as well. Just kind of round out what your whole thoughts are with like a go bag in kind of a radio application kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, perfect. So we do have Baofeng. Is that the right way? I never know the right way. Baofeng radios on our website,
I
and I
get
know.
commented on all the time that people say, "Oh, it's pronounced Pofeng or Baofeng or
Baofeng.
Baofeng." My wife is Chinese, speaks Cantonese and Mandarin, and she doesn't really care.
Know
So,
the right way.
so if other people are telling me the way to say it, I don't really care either.
Well, we have them on our website, and I'll explain why. Number one, we're a small company. We don't have the financial resources to stock and sell radios on the caliber of Yaesu or
Motorola,
ICOM, or pick your radio.
like Motorola,
Right.
right? Yeah.
But but I think from a preparedness point of view, and I'm stepping outside the amateur radio world, there are some benefits to a radio like a Baofeng. One, it's inexpensive. It's a relatively good build for the price that you're paying, and I like them because they're unlocked commercial radios. I'm not advocating people program in
Yes.
and communicate outside what you're allowed, but I will say in a disaster situation or a grid down scenario, if that were ever to happen, that radio will be worth its weight in gold because you can program in frequencies that will be beneficial for you to listen to
Mm-hmm.
and help give you situational awareness, what's going on around you. So that's why we carry them.
Right.
And in terms of a go bag, I actually have made a couple videos on that, but I think everybody, if you're an amateur radio operator, the next step once you get UHF, VHF handheld is to develop a go bag. I think, and I think of a go bag as all the nuts and bolts that I need to keep that handheld radio fed and watered and operational in a grid down scenario. That means that I assume that I can't plug into 120 mains. So I've got everything in that bag or near that bag to
Mm-hmm.
keep it up and running without AC power.
I like that. I never really thought about it that way, but no, you're right. Is if it's a go bag, you potentially don't know when you're going to be back home or whatever, or how long you could be out there that you will
Right.
have to supply it with power. From doing summits on the air, I don't generally carry solar panels out because it's just so heavy when you're going up to the top of a peak. I try and, travel light. But in a go bag sense, for an emergency situation, it
Right.
would make sense that you have 100% ability to keep the radio operating.
Yeah,
Good point.
you should check out Power Film panels. They're
Yeah.
very lightweight, but you'd be surprised how long you can run one of those radios efficiently on one of those 9 amp hour RBC2 batteries.
Yes.
And those are fairly easy to charge with a 20-watt solar panel.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have two of them, you can be operating on one while another one is charging. And if you are not talking on the radio, that's what uses the most power, is when you key up the mic.
Yep.
listening uses very little power.
Yep. By the way, do you follow Julian OH8STN on
Oh my
YouTube?
gosh, yes, I do. Of
Yeah,
course, I follow on YouTube and Instagram.
yeah. So when we go towards that, like when you're talking about self-sustaining remote operation, he's my
That's it.
example. So
Right.
yeah, for sure. So make sure you go check him out. By the way,
You're you're
guys.
you're telling me there's not an AC outlet out there in the snow?
Right. In Finland, where he goes and
Right.
sets up. Right. I
Right.
love his buggy thing that he carries behind him. Have you seen
Right.
that? I almost want to get one of those, but I've got mountains I'm climbing up a lot of the time.
Yeah, he's a very cool guy.
Yeah. So, man, we got so many things in the chat. What we're going to do is we're going to open up the call in a little bit. But you already mentioned AMP3. I think we covered a little bit about the medical. You've got some kits that you designed. That's the individual first aid kit. And you've got some go bag type comms, field bags. You've also got, and maybe you talk about this briefly. You mentioned power, but you've got some like there are units that go on top of batteries and other things for distributing power. What
Yeah.
got you into that whole thing?
Yeah, sure. And before I answer that, I just want to say in the comment section, Zachary Painter asked, "Do I get on the K7 RPT network?" And I do. Not right now. I'm pretty engaged in developing our property down south, and I probably have not been on as much as I used to. But I'm very familiar with the K7 RPT network, and I do use it quite a bit. Mm-hmm. So I use the Echo Link on one of the repeaters quite a bit. I'm sorry, I forgot what I was going to answer there, Josh.
Well, no, I was talking specifically about the power plates. That was kind of. I know you've had them for a little while, but why don't you kind of explain that to people? Because you mentioned power supply and all that stuff.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of that battery footprint because it fits in our bags. It's small. It's a reasonable battery to carry around, even if it's the sealed lead acid version, mm-hmm. which is, I think you can get 9 amp hours in the RBC2 battery. They have a lithium or LiFePO equivalent, which I believe is 12 amp hours. And of course, you get a lot more bang for your buck with less waste. But you basically
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh.
50-watt solar controller all built into that plate.
Well, I don't know what just happened, but I killed my audio. Are you back there?
Yes.
Okay, so when I switched to the web for some reason, when I switched to the video, it stopped doing your audio. So hold on one second, because we might have to go back a little bit. So hold on. So Skype went out. So go ahead, talk for a second.
Sure. I'm amazed that you do all of this, quite honestly.
Okay, now we got you back. So we kind of lost you all the way going back to when I switched over to the video. So to the slab here. So why don't you say that again? Walk through this a little bit.
I'll just start from the beginning.
Yeah.
That size right there is it's called an RBC2 battery, and you can get them in sealed lead acid or slabs. Or LiFePO versions, and I think the most power in a slab is 9 amp hours, and LiFePO is 12. But that plate clips on the. Yep, there you go.
That's a great one. Way to go. That's Dakota Lithium. These things are great.
Great company. Yep, perfect. That's it. So that plate slips right on top of that battery, mm-hmm. and that gives you a fused circuit and unfused circuit, and in the solar version, there's an embedded 50-watt solar charge controller with all the outlets are all Anderson Power Pole, which I think everybody should use in their gear.
Anderson the world, Anderson everything, yeah.
Yeah, because if I ever met you, I could just plug my gear into your gear because that's the benefit of that.
Yep. And so then
So
you talked about the doubles, the double
yeah,
header.
yeah. That's not that much weight to carry around, even in a slab version. Two of those batteries, and there's a little handle on the end.
Yep.
But that gives you 18 amp hours. You could run. I don't want to be over exaggerating, but you could run a small handheld for days without even denting that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. So that was that. All right. So real quick, since we're here, let's go
But
back
that
a
battery
separate.
and plate fit in my tactical transceiver bag,
Mm-hmm.
which is made to carry a transceiver like a 817 or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm. So you got to tell me about the Nano USB 3 amp. Is this for
Yeah.
USB charging devices that through
Yeah.
Anderson's?
That thing is the bomb.
I saw this and I'm like, that is a really good
Yeah.
idea.
Most of those chargers are like 1.5 amps. This is 3 amps. It's I'm a big fan of Bill Harrison and Hardened Power Systems. I never like to share him or County Com because they're very addictive websites.
Oh
But
yeah.
Bill's a great guy. This is 3D printed with ABS. It's got a USB port. It's got a 3 amp buck charger, and then an Anderson power pole. So I just keep that in my bag. And if I want to charge an iPhone or my iPad or any USB device, I just plug that Anderson power pole into my battery,
Okay.
and then I can charge off of that. Or if I need to, I can put a splitter on it and charge two things at 1.5 amps.
So I was just going to ask you, what do you charge this? I was like, there's no way you plug an iPhone into this, but it sounds like you do, and no problem.
I do.
That's
And
awesome.
actually, when we're at shows, I always have my iPhone plugged into that charging
I love that.
so people can see it. Yeah.
Very cool. So AM3 is your site for the different products you came up with, largely because people asked you to be able to do different. You put the lists out, you put different ideas out there, and people said, "Well, could you just sell it
Make
to me?
it.
Could you just do it for me?"
Yeah.
So right on. I love that. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I think we covered most of the questions. I don't know if you were taking any notes or anything you wanted to circle back around on. I know we covered a lot of details. By the way, again, USNERDOC on YouTube. Go subscribe to him because you can just post in his comments, blow his comments up, and ask your questions about this kind of stuff. Because if it's medical and whatnot, you want to go to people who know and live it, and that's David, definitely. So
I'm humbled. I appreciate that. My channel is growing very slowly, but I always appreciate all the support, and I'm sure you can echo this. I started off on YouTube just posting videos for woodworking for my woodworking blog,
right.
and then I discovered that there's a super neat community that I was engaged in without knowing it. And before long, I was doing videos outside my woodworking. And the first time you meet a fellow YouTuber outside the laptop or
Right.
internet world, it's a little bit, you think, okay, what is this going to be like? But every single person that I've met has been super neat and just fascinating. And it just really has opened up a whole community that I just thoroughly enjoy.
I agree 100%. I love bringing YouTubers on to do these kind of things because most of them, and yourself, you're probably the epitome of this, is you've been doing different things for a really long time. And it takes a certain kind of mindset to not just go do something as a hobby or an interest that you're passionate about, but then also to want to put a camera on you and then go through the time and effort to be able to bring that to YouTube. That adds 50%, if not more, to the total time of just doing the thing. So you always have an interesting, eccentric, eclectic type of personality when you bring YouTubers on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think the reason my channel has not grown very much in 11 years, and I know this now because I've subscribed to channels that kind of help you develop YouTube channel. I don't have a niche. I have one of my biggest weaknesses is I have too many things that I'm interested in, and whatever I'm doing, my camera is recording that, and so you never know what you're going to get on my channel.
So you and I probably spent the majority of our YouTube time doing the exact same thing. If you were to go back over my old videos, it was just everything. And I don't think I cracked more than 10,000 subs. And then I said, well, I'm really serious about ham radio. I've been really focusing on that. And then it just went boop and just
took off. Yeah, because
yeah.
you have a niche. You have a niche now, and I saw your workbench. I can tell that you are a guy with a lot of interests.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Well, shoot, this has gone fast. What I'm going to do, because we're still waiting for the giveaway to end, so if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to turn on the call-in number. So anybody want to call in, ask us questions about any of this, we're welcome to do it. Otherwise, you and I can just keep talking about all kinds of fun stuff. I know
It's been very fun.
Yeah, thank you, by the way. This has been great. I know you're really busy, but as far as radio goes, do you ever get out and do any contests, or have you tried Parks on the Air? Parks on the Air seems like something that would be right in your wheelhouse, I think.
Yeah, so Parks in the on the Air is something I'm definitely interested in, and I've done a few contests, and I like them. And I think of it from a preparedness point of view.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to,
we got a caller. That was fast.
Oh, cool.
Hold on. Go ahead, caller. It's Lee. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up, Josh?
Can you hear him? David?
I can hear him, yeah.
Okay, excellent. Go ahead.
Nice to meet you, David. My name's Lee. I'm K6LGT. Yeah, I was just wondering, I don't know if you saw my comment, but I was wondering what you think about civilians carrying nasopharyngeal tubes.
Yeah, so first of all, nice to meet you.
I don't even know what that is.
Nice to meet you.
I'll explain it. And I apologize. I got so involved in the comments with you guys, I did not see that in the comment section. But
yeah, no problem.
I'm a big believer in, if you have the training, there's no reason why you shouldn't carry something. And so I will say, first of all, I don't know if there's any specific laws. I'm not aware of any specific laws. And you can buy a nasopharyngeal tube or an NP tube pretty much anywhere. And what they are, I drew a little picture for people that might not know what they are. It's a tube. And I got a little fat at the bottom. I apologize, but it's a tube that has like
I know what that is.
Top.
Yeah. Okay.
Nowadays they're made out of silicone. They come in different sizes, and they basically, if someone is unconscious or not controlling their airway, they're semi-unconscious, this tube gets put in the nose and goes down and keeps the airway open in the bottom, right. And that little funnel sits out on the top of your nose. We use them in the emergency department, probably most commonly for someone who is really intoxicated and they've got that heavy sonorous breath. You slide those in, and that helps just protect their airway. Sometimes we put two in. If you're going to carry one, I don't think that there's a problem with it. Just make sure you know how to use it. Mm-hmm. And you always want to carry, with every nasopharyngeal tube, 1 or 2 packets of Surgilube, and you would put that in like a little bag. Whenever I see equipment like this, I always think of it as like a firearm. There's the firearm, and then you've got the magazine and the bullets, right? There's all the parts that make that work.
Right.
Same thing with my radio go bag. This is another thing like that. So just having the NP tube is not going to be very helpful unless you've got lubricant, because you need to lubricate that. And then you just put them in and you just roll them back and forth between your finger and just gently slide them in. They go straight back. Your nose doesn't go up, it goes straight back, and then it just goes down in the back of your throat. You could, potentially save somebody's life with that as an adjunct to helping somebody.
Cool, thanks.
Does that?
I heard that.
Go ahead, Lee. Go ahead. So no. Go ahead, Lee.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I just heard some opinions from the emergency doctors saying that it's kind of ridiculous to ask, for a civilian to carry. I mean, these doctors weren't prepper minded.
Right.
But,
well,
yeah.
So I will couch that answer in the context that you're talking to a prepper minded emergency physician. Mm-hmm. And I think we all have to be prepared for a situation where you might be the medical resource for someone until more skilled or advanced care can arrive. And so mm-hmm. I learned early in life, there's 2 kinds of people. There's people that are going to step up to the plate and do something, and there's people that are going to stand there or step back.
Yep.
And if you're someone who's going to step up and do something, then by all means learn how to do it. Make sure you do it safely, and in the right situation. And usually people that are interested in that have common sense and have good judgment. I don't think you're going to get into trouble. And you could actually save somebody's life by learning some of these skills.
Let me ask you a question. Somebody, I think Vlad the Impaler, who's somebody who comes out here a lot in comments, he was asking about a decompression needle as far as training goes. Is that for like somebody with a lung issue, like a deflated lung?
Yeah, so that's a great. So the typical military or tactical blowout kit is going to have the triad that I talked about: a tourniquet, a trauma dressing, and a hemostatic agent. And then there's going to be two other things in there.
Hold on one second. Sorry, I know I'm interrupting you. We've got the giveaway. It's about to go off. So
go ahead. Go.
Let's do this. Let's see who wins. 15 seconds. Let's get it centered here. Sorry, I'm covering you up a little bit, David. All right, let's slide that up there. Okay, how's that? 3 seconds. 2 seconds. Chuck, KB8 KB8YIT wins the antenna from Signal Stuff. Excellent. So I'll get that. I'll send you a message on Discord, and I'll get that shipped out to you. So, okay, sorry, decompression needle. Go for it.
Yeah, so that is to take care of a tension pneumothorax, or commonly used in someone with penetrating injury to the chest. Mm-hmm. And what that needle does, and again, it doesn't fix things permanently, but it buys you time. All of these things buy time to get someone to, really, you're talking about a surgical emergency. These people need to be taken care of in a trauma center.
Right.
But all you do is find the center of the clavicle, and you come down to the third intercostal space, and that needle goes straight in. They're usually about this long, large bore 18 gauge needle. You want to...
Holy crap. He's going full... You're explaining the whole thing right now. We're just doing it. All right.
Yeah. So the key thing is, if this is your ribs, you always want to go over the top of the rib that you're going in, because sitting underneath here is where the neurovascular bundle is, and if you go up, you run the risk of lacerating that. So the big risk with this is bleeding, as long as you ride over the top of the rib that you're going, the space that you're going, you ride over the rib on that space, you're likely not going to cause any bleeding, and you could save somebody's life with that. Now, I want to preface this. I'm not telling you to do this as a physician.
Right.
You're talking to someone who is a preparedness-minded person, and I can tell you, I've met people that are very skilled in this that don't have medical training but have sought out this training on their own. So I think it all boils down to your mindset and how you operate in the world.
Yeah.
I am sure that someone's going to watch this who is a YouTube police person.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody's going to say, why are you telling people how to do this? It's like, well,
right.
I don't think in the situations that we've talked about today, again, going back to an emergency situation, you cannot get first responder help for 9, possibly 11 days. You're on your own. What are you going to do? Are you not going to do something?
What if I'm laying on the ground and Lee walks up and has the things to take care of me?
You are the medical professional. We need you to get up to take care of yourself.
Right.
We can't help you.
I learned this in the Navy when we were training the corpsmen, and I thought, why am I training the corpsmen to do all these things? Like I taught suturing and pre-hospital advanced life support and advanced cardiac life support. And I remember talking to the chief. Any of you are in the Navy, you know the value of a chief. And I worked very closely with him as a lieutenant commander in the emergency department teaching the corpsmen. And I said, Chief, why are we doing this? And he said, in the world that we're living in right now, in the ER here that we're staffing, it's not that important. But if you look at our operational billet, these are the guys that you're going to deploy with.
Right.
And they think about it from this perspective. You may get injured. That corpsman is going to be as effective as you taught him before we deployed.
So there's a very interesting thing, and I don't know what it is, and it seems like it's happening more in today's environment, that someone has to be, we got to wait for the trained professional. I think that's always existed at some point, but it's not necessarily the trained professional. It's the person there right now. In some cases, you don't have 5 minutes, particularly for a heavy bleed. Like, you have to stop that immediately.
I'm going to tell you, you don't have time. And that's why I put on that list that I gave you. And now I've lost mine. But some of the best training you can start with right now is get involved with Stop the Bleed.
Yeah.
That is teaching civilian, non-medical people the appropriate application of tourniquets. Mm-hmm. And it's a national mandate to get that training out there. So there's an example where that is something that is being actually endorsed on a national level.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, absolutely. Well, Lee, do you have another question? I think you're still there.
Yeah, just a slight. Hi, I've been here, but I've been listening. Thanks for the answer. Just a quick follow-up. I'm gonna check out the Stop the Bleed thing.
Yeah.
But I'm also wondering, where's the best place to check out, like, to get training for, like, how to use an MP2, or that needle, decompression needle.
Yeah. So Lee, that's a great question. So I learned that before medical school in EMT class. Mm-hmm. I think you'll also learn that in wilderness first responder.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go. Okay. I think that is echoing what we talked about earlier a little bit with the classes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Lee, for calling in.
Looking to this. Yeah,
that's a great
question. Thanks for.
Yeah, it was a very good question.
I'll be watching.
So, sucking chest wound, the stickers that you can get. Do you carry one of those? Do you carry those in your?
I do, and we sell them.
Okay.
They're called chest seals, but
right.
And one of the classes I teach when we're out at trade shows, we go over that stuff. We even talk about how to improvise those. So what if you don't have one?
Credit card and duct tape, right?
Yeah. So duct tape is your friend. Yep. That should be in your go bag and your IFAC for sure. But all you need is a piece of heavy plastic and taped on 3 sides.
Yeah, so I have always been told if you have an Israeli dressing, a lot of people like to field strip them and just have the inner. And they say, some people say, no, don't do that, because if you ever need a sucking chest wound, aside from the sterile. No, but I mean, like the gray bag, right? When you open the gray bag, there's an inner bag. Some people field strip just the inner bag. They say, no, keep the gray bag, because you can use that as a field sucking chest wound.
You definitely could use that to improvise a chest seal. Why people field strip those is beyond me. They're very easy to open.
And the inner bag you could pop, and then you're in there, and that's it. I mean, not that I guess people have always said too, it's like if you're giving out medical, if you're a first responder and you're cramming a bunch of gauze on somebody, that's not the most hygienic situation anyway. But, anything you can do to help, I think, is important.
So I think it's important to just consider that this is not, I always get into this philosophical discussion with people when we're at these shows, because one of my favorite things to do is take a bunch of gauze pads and put them in a Ziploc bag and vacuum pack them down. Mm-hmm. And you can get 50 to 75 gauze pads down to that thickness.
Yep.
And I've had people say, "Oh, you can't do that because it's not sterile. Like there's some rule or law." Well, first of all, there's nothing sterile that you're going to be doing out in the wilderness environment or in the grid down preparedness environment. It's going to be a clean procedure. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing wrong with that. And the same thing with the Israeli trauma dressing. If you want to field strip it, that's fine. But what you're taking now is something that's vacuum packed, small and compact, and you're making it like double up its size and make it unmanageable. People do that, I think, for the high-speed, low-drag sort of scenario where they're going to pull it out and save somebody's life.
Yeah.
There's not that much difference in a few seconds to open the bag and pull it out, quite honestly.
Right. I love that. Oh, very good. Well, the phone lines are still open. Is there anything else you want to say, David? We might get a couple of calls, but if not, I mean, is there anything you want to cover before we? Your list was amazing, by the way. Again, everybody, go check the description for his list and check out those links. It's really, really good. Oh, you know what? I got 2 questions actually. I was just looking at the stream and I remembered I needed to ask them. EpiPen. Do you carry an EpiPen? Should someone carry an EpiPen?
I think you should.
Okay.
And I carry one. The problem with them is this: one, they don't have a long shelf life.
Sure.
And
oh yeah,
number two is they're expensive, and the third thing I see is they're typically used without fully understanding what you're doing. And I'm not criticizing. I think if someone has that and they use it, they're concerned that someone is having an anaphylactic reaction.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen it used. Well, I shouldn't say this, but if someone just saw peanuts, they stab them with the EpiPen. And that's
you were looking at those planters, peanuts, weren't you?
Right. That's a little over dramatic, but yeah. I think if you have one, it's like anything else. You need to know, when do I use this? How do I use it safely? And so patients learn when they need to use it, where it's to be used, and if a parent has it, they know when to use it and where to apply it on their child.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about something, event that's coming up. We've got Baker to Vegas, which is Baker, California to Vegas, which is a run that the sheriffs do. And, they've got amateur radio operators set up along the whole run there. That would be a perfect situation where you need some kind of first aid, possibly an EpiPen, because there's going to be bees or whatever out there, stinging bugs, where you might need something like that, right? Or would you think?
Oh, no, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I could think of probably 20 different little scenarios that could happen on a run like that you would want to be prepared for, not the least of which is orthopedic injuries. But someone could certainly have an anaphylactic reaction to a bee sting and not thinking that they're going to come in contact with bees. It could be a participant. It could also be someone who is, an observer watching the event.
Yeah. There's the thing you always hear, an EpiPen is kind of like a pressurized, surgical needle, not, an injection.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a self-injector.
Can you replace that with just a big dose of Benadryl?
So that's a great question. All the kits that I have, I always include Pepsid or Zantac and Benadryl. So right there, you've got the ability to take care of stomach acid and sleeping if you need, something mild to help you with sleep. But the real reason I put those in my kits is you can buy a lot of time by using Zantac and Benadryl. That will give you H1H2 blockade, the histamine system, and that's what's involved.
Oh, so you combo it. You use the Zantac and the Benadryl together.
Right.
Oh, I love that. So I didn't know that. I'm going to write that down.
If I even think that's going to be a potential thing, I give someone a dose of Benadryl and Zantac and get that going right away. And then also you just got to say, we need to get moving and get you out of this situation, go to the hospital, or call an ambulance. I always think of being on outings with kids or, scouts or.
Yeah, perfect. The kids always getting stung or getting into something that they have a reaction. Peanut allergies, for example. You already mentioned it.
You could forestall things by getting that on board early.
I like that. I really like that. Well, we're going to go ahead and I think we might wrap it up here. Did anybody want to call in? If you want, no big deal. I do want to do one thing. David, you hang on. We've got to hit the patrons because I missed it the last time, and I really apologize. But thank you to all the patrons, not just the producers we're covering, but William Horton, Chris Ebert, Carrie Blackwell, Jason Brown, Jason Siebert, David Dansero, Danny Miller, Anthony, Franklin Miller, Franklin Lewis, Michael Nieswender, Brad Snyder, Gareth Broadhead, Dennis Dunderdale, Justin Blackburn, Garrett Larson, the infamous No Name, Dean Johnson, Ben Kellum, Dennis Mickelson, George Gaini, Andy, Kenny Miyamoto, Ron Thorson, Michael Baxter, Devin Hedge, Mark Chase. There's a lot now, I gotta tell you. I don't know if I keep doing this. Mark McCarty, Julian OH8STN, who we already talked about. Go check him out on YouTube. Raymond Cracker, Geraldo Kelso, Bo Brewer, Corey Sheldon, Brad Nadeau, Stephen Hunt, Ronald. Oh man, now my eyes are getting bad. I'm gonna have to go to the doctor. Belky, Ronald White, the Truth Telling Mofo, and the Brew Crew. Cheers to the Brew Crew. Thank you so much for all the support. So, David, again, appreciate you coming out. Any final things you want to talk about, plug, mention? What are you up to on YouTube? Do it now.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. This was truly an honor, and I enjoyed it. And that's quite a list of Patreons, and it was cool to see Julian's name there. I'm a big fan of his.
He's great.
Two things that I think everybody should add to their Go kits, and they should be individual and multiples. So in every kit, you should have a pair of reading glasses, like 2.0 reading glasses.
Oh.
And a headlamp, because can you imagine programming a radio at nighttime with limited illumination? Even if you don't need reading glasses, putting on 2.0 reading glasses and a headlamp with a directable beam will help you immensely in any of these activities, including if you needed to provide any medical support for someone. That's going to happen at night sometimes. Yep. And my wife took a video of me on a Boy Scout outing, but one of the boys had his braces come unhooked.
Oh, sure.
And so I used a hemostat for my kit, my headlamp, gloves, and someone held his cheek out, and I got in there with my light. I had good illumination, and I put that wire back in the brace and saved him and his dad going in to town and leaving the outing.
And that was be honest. You brought out the Dremel and you just started hacking away at the wire just to break it off, right?
With a little teeny cutoff wheel.
Yeah. I will say I've got this on the table. This is the headlamp I'm currently reviewing, which is the BioLite. They made a headlamp, and you're a headlamp guy, it sounds like.
Yep.
The BioLite has the battery pack on the back, and the front, where the lights are, it's really light and flush. I'm going to make a video I'm going to start doing ham radio tool videos. We're going to do a stream and some other stuff where we talk about common tools for ham radio. And headlamp, I agree with you 100%. If you're ever outside operating, you need to have a headlamp, and particularly one that will, hold on, where is it? Red light. Yes. You need to have red light for amateur radio.
For your eyes.
Particularly when you're in the dark. You don't want to ruin your night sight, but you want to give illumination, and red light is perfect for that.
So I think you need to have that and the reading glasses in every kit.
I like that. And duplicates. There's no reason to not have duplicates. Find a nice cheap headlamp, a nice cheap reading pair, and then devoted to that, never take them out. That's where they live now.
And keep the batteries separate from the headlamp.
Unless it's a rechargeable. This one's a rechargeable. So that's its own problem, because you got to keep that topped off. I appreciate that. Well, David, this has been awesome. There's been actually some requests that you join us on the Discord. I don't know if you've got the time for that, but
I can do that, but what do I do?
So Zach, could you post the link for the Discord, or I could just send you the link. I know how to do that.
I got that.
My camera's freaking out. I don't know what's happening right now. My camera says I've got a... Oh, so if you see Zach's post on Discord, you just take that link, and it's a website. You got to join it, but it's not like Facebook or anything like that. They don't sell your information. It's not about anything like that. And that'll take you to the Ham Radio Crash Course. And then on there, in fact, we could just stay on the line. I could just end the stream and help. I don't know why I'm doing this live. We could do this after the fact. All right, guys. With that, David, again... USNERDOC. It's been a long time in the making. I think you've been on YouTube longer than me. I've been on for 10 years, and I believe I've been watching you, if not the moment I started, for most of the time that I've been on. So I appreciate what you do, and I appreciate you coming on. I really
thank you. I'm humbled.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody. If you have not already, please subscribe to both of us, USNERDOC and the Ham Radio Crash Course here on YouTube. I am Hashnazi KI6NAZ, streaming every Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Please set the notification, and we're going to do some random fun videos that are coming up here, like the video for the Sea Crane Skywave single sideband, so make sure you are following. We're going to Discord. I hope you come along with us. Take it easy. I'll see you later.